What's up, friends, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name's Tiana, and as you can tell from the title, today I'll be doing my first mukbang. First of all, where did that word come from? What does it even mean? Second of all, it's not a real mukbang because it's just this one person meal. I guess it's kind of big, that's kind of a lot of food, but typically, is it mukbang or mukbang? Whatever, typically these videos that other people do, they eat tens of thousands of calories in one sitting, so it's that's what a real mukbang is and what people actually like to watch. But it's kind of weird to me, why do we like to watch people stuff their face with these gross greasy foods? I don't know. So mine's a little bit healthier. I'm eating this meal. It's this peanut noodle meal with carrots, tofu, cucumbers, some snap peas, all of these vegetables with a peanut sauce, and it's actually so good. You eat it cold, which is weird to me, but still good. And I ordered it from Eat Purely, which is an app that has a few meal options per day, and the menu usually stays the same for about a week at a time. And you can get your first 2 meals on me if you use the code TiannaL1 when you sign up. I'll put that code in the description box as well. Unfortunately, Eat Purely is only based in Chicago at the moment, so you can't use it if you're other places, but if you visit Chicago or you live here, you can definitely use my code and get $20 credit. Also, I wanted to note that they don't always have vegan options, but when they do, I try to order them because they're so good and very unique meals. They always have about 1 vegetarian option per week, but not always vegan. This was the vegan one for the week though, but I looked already for next week and there wasn't an option. So it's kind of off and on and random when they do have them. Okay, and then as you can also tell from the title, what today's topic is, so what I'll be talking about as I'm eating this yummy meal, is body image and kind of just my experience with my own body image. And this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I just couldn't get myself to do it because there's so much that I want to talk about, and I knew that no matter what I do and how I make this video, it's not going to be perfect for me. But because it'll never be perfect in my opinion, I just feel like I just need to do it anyway because it could help some people out or people could relate. But because I also have so much to say, I made this huge note in my notes in my laptop just so I could get all my points across that I wanted to talk about. And no, this video isn't necessarily revolved around veganism or conscious living like I like them typically to be, or my vegan lifestyle, but A, I'm eating a vegan meal while I talk. B, I'll mention it a little bit probably towards the end because I'm going to start from childhood and talk about my story. And I feel like I'm being so dramatic by saying my story, but I don't know. I feel like it could be interesting. And I also am just an advocate for mental health and loving your body, mostly because I have had body image issues. So I feel all of my lifestyle ideas and, veganism, the cruelty-free, conscious living, blah, 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 everything kind of intertwines with physical health, mental health, world health, etc. So I don't need an excuse. I'm just going to talk about it. Let's take a bite first. Okay, so honestly, I feel 90% of the population has some sort of body image issue, whether it be extreme or super minor. But first, I should probably define body image. It's just literally the way that you see yourself. And when I say issue, it's just not really liking the way that you see yourself or not being able to change it or whatever issue that may be. Now, for me in particular, I want to start way back in childhood because, as many of you may know, I cheered for a majority of my life, and I still think that had something subconsciously to do with me always having these issues. So I literally began competitive cheer at the age of 5, where you run around in sports bras and booty shorts, and your uniform is literally a crop top and a skirt that's this big with a slit down the side. And it didn't make me feel body conscious at all as a young child. In fact, I think it gave me body confidence and made me feel sexy, if, for lack of a better word, at a younger age, and really love my body when I was younger. I honestly, throughout elementary school and junior high, I thought that I was hot shit. I was pretty confident with myself a majority of the time. I will say that I've always had an athletic build because of cheer, so I have very thick thighs. I can't say very thick, I don't know what your definition of very thick is, but probably like thicker than average, and they were always very muscular even growing up, like literally even in elementary school. So I was a little bit self-conscious about the size of my thighs, especially when skinny jeans started becoming a thing in like the 7th grade, because my friends with like skinny legs would look so cute in skinny jeans, and I always hated my legs in them, or just felt like I belonged in like bell bottoms or whatever was in at that time. Now, I mean, I do wear skinny jeans because I wear really like different kinds of jeans. I don't know. I like them now. But at the time I didn't. And I also started developing a chest kind of early on, like in like 8th grade, I want to say, when no one else had boobs. So I was kind of self-conscious about my boobs just because I felt like I shouldn't have them yet, but I never hated my chest. I just kind of felt like a loner that developed before everyone else, I guess, and I kind of hid them, but people say I hide them to this day, when in reality, I just don't like wearing real bras. I don't own push-up bras. I own very few low-cut shirts. I like to be comfortable, etc. So it's not that I'm ever like hiding my boobs. I just don't really flaunt them that often. And I do sometimes, just not that often. Anyway, going back to like the childhood and cheer and everything, again, I was still pretty confident, but whenever I think cheer started to subconsciously like change that was whenever I switched from being just a flyer to a base. So with competitive cheer, and I guess like school cheer too, but mostly competitive, like you fly up until a certain age. For those of you that don't know cheer terminology, a flyer is the person that people lift in the air, like hold up there. So typically the smaller, lighter humans. And I had grown up doing that because I was young and small. However, we all reach that puberty phase, I don't know what I just said, where you gain like hips, butt, maybe a little bit more weight, or younger kids are just smaller than you now. So in competitive cheer, you can still be kind of small at like 14 or something, but then you could have like an 8-year-old on your team who's obviously half your size and going to be a flyer instead of you. So then you're kind of like, shoot, am I like big now? When you have to start basing, aka being the person that lifts those tiny flyers. So I think that automatically starts making your mind change, but I don't blame coaches or anything at all, because I think coaches do a good job of just explaining that it's the way it works. Like you were that little person, that little 8-year-old before, and now you're just growing up and growing into your body, and there's other people that need to take that spot. Another piece with that in competitive cheer is I think you kind of hear some things that people say, like, if you're mad that your flyer's not doing well, you'll be like, oh, you're so heavy. And terms like that kind of get into your head as a flyer. Or you'll hear someone else gossiping about another girl. I've been that girl before. I've been the gossiper where you're talking about someone else saying like, oh, they really shouldn't be wearing that sports bra. Or wow, their coach should have gave them a long top rather than a crop top for their cheer uniform. And A, when you hear other people say it, you kind of think about yourself like, I'm wondering if people say that about me. And B, it's like, if they feel comfortable in that, like they're rocking it. And if they don't, then it kind of sucks. And I wish they would have spoken up, you know? But when it comes to like my diet during junior high into high school, obviously elementary school, like I didn't really care what I ate. I always ate ramen noodles. Pop-Tarts were my go-to. I would get those little like taco tornado wraps from gas stations. If you know what a tornado is, like, oh my God, they're so good. And then between cheer practices, I would often be like on 2 teams, like a younger team and an older team, and you'd be like in the middle age. So when you had 2 back-to-back, in between, we would run and get some food from like Culver's, McDonald's, Wendy's, like just such terrible places, but like you didn't care. And you never felt sick after. You would go cheer and like flip and everything, and you just like were totally fine. It's literally like a superpower, now that I think about it. But it's not like I ever like gained weight because of it, because A, my metabolism was probably just so fast because I was growing still. And B, I was cheering and tumbling literally every day. Like when I was younger, my mom coached every single day. So I would go to the gym with her and just run around the gym, tumble myself. And then the other days I would have my own practice. And then even when she stopped, whenever I had junior high and high school cheer, I would have a couple practices a week for school cheer, and then I would also have a couple practices a week for competitive cheer, and then maybe game days on the weekends or competitions on the weekends, etc. So I still had a lot going on, and I was always active and obviously burning a lot of calories. And not a lot when I was like tiny. I've always been like medium set, like athletic build, not like super scrawny with like skinny limbs, but I like never really hated that. Again, I like thought my legs were like too muscular, but not to a point where I cared a ton. So I was used to being like that in-between size. However, I will say that when I say in-between, it's my version of it in-between, because other people would think that I was like tiny or small, but because I hung around tiny cheerleaders all the time who were much smaller than me and went to cheer competitions, and you're just like surrounded by very fit individuals, in comparison to the groups that I was always around, I was very average and still would say I am. But now let's get into like mid-high school. Ew, where did that go? So I think it was like junior year from what I recall. Is that still on my face? No. When I think like 3-ish things happened, like junior, senior year. The first, I'm gonna talk about my mother. And Mom, I know you watch all my videos, and I don't want you to blame yourself for anything or get mad at me for talking about this, but I do think because you're the #1 woman in my life, my biggest role model, and like my best friend at the time and now, you were definitely someone who impacts my body image. And not in, I don't want to say like you're negative or anything. I hate even like talking about this because FYI, my mom, every single time we FaceTime, says, "You're so beautiful." So no, my mom has never called me fat or anything like that. The story about my mom, I can just see her watching this and hating that I'm eating with my mouth full and thinking that mukbangs are the stupidest thing ever invented, which they kind of are. Anyway, story about my mom. So I think it was like junior year. My mom has always been kind of just a thicker woman. She's like 4'9". Like, where else was that food gonna go? And she started to really lose weight. And it wasn't exactly in a non-healthy way or a super healthy way. She just ate a lot of low-calorie foods, like pretzels was her main meal for literally 3 meals a day, or like grilled vegetables if my dad made them. I'm kind of exaggerating. And then she has a pretty active job as like a tumbling and cheer coach. But she started to lose weight quickly, and when you live with someone, you don't notice it as much because you see them every day. Like, you can notice it, but it's not like dramatic. And I was very happy for her. Don't get me wrong, I never thought she was like fat, and I never thought any down of her or anything like that, but I was very happy to see her getting healthier. And this wasn't until one day when she called me and asked me to borrow a pair of jeans that were so small for me. It's terrible that I remember this like so clearly and that she probably doesn't, but there were a pair of jeans that were like Hollister, so small for me. Like, I had to like do the little skinny jean dance to put them on. And she called and asked if she could borrow them because they fit her. And in that moment, I was just like, wow. Like, I didn't realize how small my mom had gotten. And then it made me feel like I was big just because she had always been bigger than me. And then suddenly my mom was smaller than me. And I know a lot of moms are smaller than other people. I just hadn't experienced that before. So then I was like, what the heck? And at this time I was literally still eating those ramen noodles. I would literally eat a pack of like Ritz crackers a day, just like so terribly. And I didn't care. But that wasn't the only thing. Like, it wasn't like my mom was skinny and now I'm like, okay, I gotta be skinny too. I think another trigger was that I was on the dive team. So I joined the dive team my sophomore year, when I would say I was still a pretty average size. And when you're on the dive team, it's very chill compared to the swim team, like the swimmers, the actual like swimmers, yet you're still considered a part of the swim team. Like, the swim and dive team are a team. But the actual swimmers are so much more active and literally burned like thousands of calories per practice, while the divers just jumped off a diving board and did some flips. Way less active. Still cool, still hard, but less like calorie burning. And because the swimmers burn so many calories, they also ate so much. So they would bring like jugs of chocolate milk to practice in the mornings, donuts, banana bread, homemade cookies. And we had secret swimmers for every meet, which was essentially just a person that you didn't know, like a secret Santa, but for like food and snacks, to give you like a good luck gift before every single meet, which was like at least every other week. And we would literally be like so giving, I guess, so nice, that we would give like full boxes of like goldfish, Twizzlers, animal crackers, whatever, and like try to be obviously the best secret swimmer. And then the divers would usually start the meet off by diving, and then we just watch the swimmers while eating our snacks for the next like hour and a half, which is obviously way too much to eat for one sitting. Now I was still cheering, so I was still, you know, pretty active there. Even though diving wasn't that active, cheer was. But at this point, I was definitely eating a lot more and a lot more often with this swim team. And because of this, I started to slowly gain weight without really realizing it or honestly thinking anything of it. I also had like a serious boyfriend at the time that we had been together for a couple years, and I mean, he thought I was hot and he would never call me fat, so I didn't really think that I was big. And again, I wasn't big, I was just gaining like a few pounds, I'm sure. Now, no one was calling me big. I wasn't really feeling big. Again, my mom was kind of getting small, but I was like not really worried. I was still living my life the way I wanted to, eating whatever I wanted. That is until this long-term boyfriend and I broke up, and I was talking to some other boys, one of which was someone's ex, I believe, who wrote on my car some really mean terms like, "You're a slut, you're fat, blah, blah, blah." Now, I actually never saw these words on my car because my parents are literal saints who get up at like 5 or 6 a.m., saw it on my car and washed it off before I could see it so I wasn't sad and crying in the morning. And then they told me when I got home from school. And to this day, I never got an apology, and I don't know 100% who it was because no one ever admitted to it either, but I do have a very good feeling of who it was. And although I wasn't letting myself be really upset about it in the moment, I think it did like subconsciously get to me, and especially like it saying fat. I was like, I've never been called fat before, honestly, like not even as like a fake bully, like I just hadn't. So I think this, along with like my mom losing weight, the subconscious cheer thoughts, the diving, all of the eating, all of these things kind of started to shift my thoughts into thinking about being healthier. So I think that's when the shift initially started, where I just kind of thought I was being healthy. But when you first try to like diet or anything, for those of you who have been in this phase before, you know what I'm talking about. You think that like wheat thins are healthy. You think that salads are automatically healthy, even if they have like egg and cheese and Thousand Island dressing, when they're not. You think that every wrap is healthy when they're not, in reality. So I was like trying to be like healthier-ish, but probably wasn't really making much of a difference. So at this time, kind of like going into my senior year, I start thinking more about college. I had no idea where I wanted to go. No idea what I wanted to study. The only thing I did know was that I wanted to cheer. And preferably I wanted to fly. So again, all of these things added up, plus me thinking that I'm too big to fly, which, I mean, I was. I decided to take the diet and exercise thing seriously. So I bought a cheap gym pass. PS, just finished. And I just started eating like what my mom was eating. I mean, like the pretzels. I would also eat a lot of veggie soups. more fruits. I had like an apple a day. I was eating like dried Cheerios for breakfast, a lot of yogurts. Rice cakes with peanut butter was a big one. And I was eating very small amounts. So I was very good at portion control at this point. Well, I got to be good at portion control. Obviously, it took me a while. And when you become more obsessive, you get better at it. And when you start seeing the weight come off, it gets more addicting. So by like mid-senior year, I had lost quite a bit of weight, and I was at my lowest that I could remember like ever weighing myself at. It's not like I weighed myself when I was in junior high. But in high school, I was like my lowest, and I was feeling amazing. Like best body I've ever had. So confident about it. Feeling great that I was single and had this body. Like it was great. Until I got to the point where it started ruining my social life. I know this happens, this isn't a new story. You've probably heard of this happening to other people, but I just didn't want to go out to eat with my friends because I didn't want to have to eat the unhealthy food. I wanted to eat my healthy food at home. I also had to work out every single day. So if someone invited me to do something and I hadn't worked out, I had to go work out first. And it was even hard just to eat when I was like at friends' house and stuff. Like they'd be snacking on something normal and I wouldn't want to eat it. And this was pretty serious, but I never got to the point of like bulimia. I never threw up. I was never anorexic where I didn't actually eat a day. I was still eating. I did track my calories, but I don't remember what my like calorie intake was, but I was small. Little did I know that I wasn't really doing the right thing for my body. So because I was still active with cheer, I needed to be eating more. So even though I was losing weight, I was also losing muscle because the most exercise that I was doing was running. So I wasn't really doing any like strengthening besides when I was at cheer practice, and I was obviously getting weaker at cheer as well. My tumbling sucked, my basing sucked, etc. Anyway, mid-senior year, I also started applying to colleges. And I didn't know where I wanted to go again, but I was definitely convinced, mostly by my friend Sarah, to go to the University of Illinois, which by the way is like one of the best decisions I've ever made. However, little did I know that A, their basketball and football team suck, and that I would be cheering for a losing team all the time. It's okay, I'm still a hardcore Illini fan, I-L-L-I-N-I. Anyway, I obviously still wanted to cheer, so I went to cheer tryouts at my small size, and I get there and people are still so much smaller than me, like tiny, so small. And I'm like, I'm literally working so hard to be this smaller person, and you guys are probably naturally just little. So I go through the cheer tryouts, I make the team, but I make the team as a base instead of a flyer. And this automatically just like ruins me. Like instead of being excited about making the team, I was almost upset. Like more upset about me being a base on the team because I wanted to fly so bad. And now I'm thankful that I was a base because being a flyer is just so much more stressful. And if anything goes wrong, everyone's looking at you, not the bases. And I never got nervous for a game or anything like that. Just, I don't know, besides the point. So once this happened, I literally, again, was just like, oh my God, all my hard work is done. It was for no reason. So I just started eating normal again. And I quickly gained back that weight because I had been restricting myself so much that my body was in like this like starvation mode, I think, where I just literally gained it all back so fast. Which is honestly like the size I am now. It's not even like big. And in college, it actually became easier for me to meet that happy medium because in the dorms, there was really good healthy options that you could eat every day. So like at home or even now living in an apartment, you know, you don't always have like fresh salad available every single day or fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, etc. But I did have that in the dorms and in the sorority house. So freshman and sophomore year, it was very easy for me to like stay fit by still cheering. They made us lift 3 days a week. I had 4-hour-long games for football on Saturday. And I was eating more normal and healthy, and I was able to keep a pretty athletic, healthy body type while still going out on the weekends, still sometimes eating late while I'm studying, and eating some junk food, etc. And then junior year was when I got my first apartment, and I still think because it was my first time buying my own groceries, it was still easy to kind of eat healthier because you buy your own groceries, and obviously what you don't have stocked up in your fridge and your cupboard, you're not gonna eat unless you go out and buy it just for a craving, which I would sometimes do. So that was kind of like junior year and senior year style. And now me living in an apartment in the city, it's like the same way. Like you just buy healthy groceries and basically eat healthier, besides when you go out to eat with people and go out on the weekends, which is obviously weekly and sucks because you want to have this social life and have fun, but you also want to be like fit and healthy. But I do think meeting a happy medium, you know, in the middle of both of those lives is where I've been my happiest. And I think to this day, I still have those body image issues where I want to be smaller, but I'm also like happy with my body. I think it's a lot better not cheering anymore because I'm not like being seen by crowds of people in a little like tight fitted cheer uniform, but I still want to look good in my clothes, you know, just like for myself. So that's still motivating for me to kind of eat healthier, and you just feel better that way anyways. But then I think nowadays people are like so good at Instagram that you compare yourself to them, which can get hard. Like once a part of me sees them as like motivating, like, oh, I can look like that too. And then the other part of me is like, damn, why don't I look like that already? And then another part of me is like, I'm perfect the way I am. So I always have these like conflicting views in my head, but it's nowhere near what it was when it was the worst in high school. And sometimes bad in college when I just like felt icky and like I didn't want to put my cheer uniform on. But my biggest struggles today are really around like portion control. Like I always want to finish my plate and I get big portions, sometimes seconds. And that's a really hard habit to break. And it sounds like so easy, like, hey, just don't get that second plate. But in the moment, you just like really don't think that way. At least like I don't. So I'll get more and then regret it later, or finish my plate when I could have saved it and then regret it later, etc. But I don't know. I think part of that is like a thing that people talk about where like you're younger and you're told to finish your plate. I don't freaking know. Also super ironic, I just watched a video like 2 days ago about this like Minnesota starving experiment, which was like after the Holocaust, how so many people were like starved. These researchers wanted to see like the best way to rehabilitate them like into eating and becoming healthy again. Long story short, they just kind of like made the subjects eat a certain amount of calories and then restricted those calories for an amount of time. So it was like this starving sensation. And then after however many months they could eat normally again. And they're recommended to just like start slow and then eat normal. But weirdly, a few things that they noticed about the people, these people would drink a ton of water. They would chew gum obsessively. And then they would look at like recipes and cookbooks and just like liked looking at food. And all three of those things are things that I probably started doing like in high school and I still love doing now. Like I always have gum. I have like 20 packs stocked up in my dresser at all times. I drink so much water every day. And I pin 1,000 recipes, and you guys know I'm not a good cook. Like I actually try a recipe maybe once every other month. So it's just weird that like you kind of make your mind work in this way that becomes like slightly obsessed with food after you restrict yourself for a certain amount of time. I will say that now, again, I'm trying to get better at the portions control, and I'm also trying to get better with the intuitive eating. I think intuitive eating is a lot harder whenever you're working a full-time job because you can only eat during certain times of the day, like in the morning before you go to work or right when you get to work if you can eat breakfast at work. And then lunch, you probably have like a break from like 12 to 1. So even if you're not hungry at that point, you know you probably won't have another break for the rest of the day where you can eat a full meal. So you should eat during that time. And then again, you're probably hungry when you get home from work. I don't know. So you just have to like eat at this certain times, where in college I would, you know, sleep till 11, eat like a brunch at like 12, and then a dinner at like 5, you know? So like it was more like eating when I was hungry. And now it's like I have to like schedule my meals and eat even if I'm not that hungry, so I don't get hungry later. I'll also say that I'm thankful for veganism, because I just feel healthier in general, which is a great part. And you always feel like you're doing better for the earth, and it's just like good for my mental health in general. But I also think it helps with that self-control factor. For examples where I'm like at work and there's free food, I don't know what it is about me, but if there's food and it's free, I'm like, oh my God, I have to have it because it's free. I think college started that mindset for me when you're broke and poor. But anyway, if it's like cookies or cake or sandwiches with like mayo and meat, obviously I'm not going to eat them even if they are free because they're not vegan. And then I'm like, okay, thank God they're not vegan because I would have eaten them if not, and I don't need them. So that part of veganism kind of helps with the whole mindset. But like I've said in another video before, that when I first went vegan, it is so exciting and you want to try all these new foods that are vegan and those burgers that taste just like meat and blah, 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 blah. But now I'm kind of getting to a point where I do treat myself to these kind of meals at like Native Foods or Veggie Grill a couple times a month probably, but I actually prefer like the fresh meals or like rice with cooked veggies or salad bars. I'll literally pay $12 for a fresh salad just because it's so good and makes me feel so much better than like a processed frozen meal. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at today, and I think me getting into yoga is another piece that's really benefiting my like mind and body connection, which sounds so cliche and hippie, but it's so true. Like whenever I go to yoga in the morning, I do feel like at peace with my body. I feel good about myself, and I just have a better day because of it. Where I was going through a phase where I was going to these like very boot camp style workouts just because I was like figuring I was probably burning like 500 to 600 calories per class. Therefore, I could eat more food or maybe lose some weight faster, but I didn't love these classes. Like I didn't actually look forward to going to them. So I kind of quit that gym, took a break, like let my body feel what I wanted to do. I went for walks for a while because that's what my body wanted. And now that I'm getting back into yoga after not going for a while, like I am so happy and recommend anyone trying it. It can be so intimidating at first, but even just starting with the apps, the free apps like Down Dog, you can do 20-minute yoga workouts a day, and it's just like, you won't regret it, I promise. I've also learned that, you know, shitty foods make me feel shitty, and that's kind of why I want the healthier style food, because like when you eat something heavy and you just don't feel great and you're tired, like it's just not a good feeling, as opposed to like food that actually gives you energy and makes you feel better and not too full, not sluggish, you know what I mean? So I think kind of remembering that as I'm choosing like what I'm eating or how much I'm eating can also be very helpful, being like, okay, if I eat another bowl or I go and eat this really heavy meal, this pasta or whatever, versus this light and fresh meal, like I'm not gonna feel good after. Like sometimes that can be helpful, but again, my mind isn't always in that set. Sometimes the food brain, I like to call it, just kind of like takes over and I feel that way instead. Alright guys, well thank you for watching. I hope I got to all my points. I feel like this video isn't going to be everything that I wanted to talk about, but hopefully it was kind of interesting. And if you ever want someone to talk to about any body image issues or any questions or anything like that, I am totally here for you, and know that you are so beautiful and you are so perfect just the way you are. You don't have to compare yourself to these Instagram models or cheerleaders or other athletes that you're around, or just your best friends, anyone, your mother. But I'm telling myself this as I'm telling you this, and it's a work in progress, and you do get to better places along the way. And that you really should eat healthier just because it is good for your body, not necessarily because you need to lose weight, or if you are at a great size and you love yourself, it's still good to eat healthy for yourself. Shameless plug, I'm always gonna tell you guys to go vegan because it is so good for you and it's the best thing you can do for your body and the environment and the animals. Okay, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys again for watching. Hopefully this wasn't too sporadic and crazy, and it was maybe a little bit helpful and relatable instead. If you're not already subscribed and you like this video, go ahead and click that red subscribe button below, and you can also follow me on my social media links that are in the description box as well if you would like. Alright guys, see you next video.